I finally had the opportunity to play Trails Beyond the Horizon. Going into the game, I wasn't expecting anything too great as far as the Trails game goes, thanks to how lackluster I felt the majority of Trails through Daybreak 2 was with its plot-related repetitive aspects. I also had other negative thoughts going into the game, like what the heck is Reen from the Cold Steel games doing in Calvard? He's supposed to be a military academy teacher in Erebonia. Go back to your home and stay there. I'm sick of you from the 5 games I was forced to use you, and you're already a completely developed character. The only reason you're in this game is because everyone loves you. Of course, that changed after I got into his route in Trails Beyond the Horizon, and it made a lot of sense for him to be in Calvard. The build-up to his eventual meeting with the other martial artists related to his 8 Leaves sword style is satisfying too. Now, while I feel like Trails into Reverie way overdid it with its playable character count, and I narratively felt maybe some of the routes in that game didn't really need to exist, Trails Beyond the Horizon executed the route system near perfectly from a narrative perspective. Sure, maybe Kevin's picnic squad didn't need its own route, as Kevin was undeniably the only one in the group who had important business in Calvard, but their interactions did lighten up some of the heavier moments in the game, and I have to admit Rufus grew on me after everything he's been through. The Gundam fan in me who loves Char Aznable has a soft spot for him, and his interactions with Lapis are entertaining. All the routes end up introducing some really cool reveals as to what's going on in the bigger picture in Zemuria, and a lot of the series' stranger things, like how technology develops so rapidly from airships and walking in Trails in the Sky, to cars, mecha, internet, VTubers, and rockets now in the Calvard arc. This game covers some very fundamental and important historical aspects of the impact Claude Epstein's research and the knowledge he left his disciples had on the world. Several characters get some really nice development too. Rosette in particular instantly became one of my favorite characters in the Calvard arc by the time I was at the end of the game after some particularly revelatory scenes. Even one of the more mysterious and eccentric Anguis of Ouroboros gets some interesting character development at the end of Grimgarten. Other aspects of Trails Beyond the Horizon are largely the same as in the first 2 games. The alignment system and Spriggan style choices are all still a part of this game's side quest system, just like in the previous Calvard games. There are also bonding events for all 3 routes too, and the kinda dumb but simple hacking minigames are back too. The story in this game is better than most of the Trails games I've played, but what really makes it stand out for me is the gameplay. This game takes a lot of the systems developed in the Trails games before the Calvard arc and integrates them into the hybrid action and turn-based battle system. The S-crafts were given cooldowns so players couldn't just spam them like they could in previous games. The cooperative attacks with teammates are further developed and can even be boosted now when enemies are stunned. In the action-based combat, certain characters can power up to do even more damage in the field at the expense of the boost meter. A new zone of control mechanic also allows characters to take 2 actions in a row on the timeline if they use 2 boost bars in turn-based combat. In action-based combat, the zone of control will give your party a huge speed boost that will slow down the enemies. Orders are back and can change some global rules in the battle, like increased physical damage done or decreased damage taken. Quick arts are also still in the game. The last new change I can remember is the new BLTZ bonus on the timeline that will supplement offensive actions with a basic attack from a party member who isn't in the active party. As fun as all these options are to explore in battles, my favorite change in the battle system is simply the upgrade in difficulty to the game. Trails Beyond the Horizon feels a lot more challenging than the previous games in the Calvard arc, which it needed. A lot of this is due to the fact that enemies have access to the same mechanics you do. They can use anti-orders to do things like increase the damage you take or increase your casting time. Some enemies have their own S-crafts, and they can also interrupt actions on the timeline and take 2 turns in a row on the timeline. And I do think that sometimes it can feel unfair when 4 enemies are getting 8 turns in a row and destroying my party, but then I remember I can technically do the same thing. There are actually very few new characters in this game, but they are awesome. A few of them are characters that were referenced in older Trails games, but you actually get to see them for the first time in this game. Some of them are good guys, some of them are bad guys, and one of them was a bad guy who becomes playable in this game. There's just a lot of really cool stuff and surprises in this game, and I love the direction the story is going for the future of the series. I know I'm being abstract, but I don't want to spoil the game. Just hammer the point that this is a much better game than Trails through Daybreak 2 was. The game's not perfect though. While it does give several automatic setup options for courts, it can still be really tedious setting up your top tier courts for 3 parties as you split between them for the story. And technically, you'll probably need to mess around with courts even more for the Grimgarten. I spent several hours of the 96 I played in this game just trying to Tetris great courts to get the shard skills I wanted on my characters. Then I screenshotted my setups to save time when I had to remove those courts to put on other party members. Unlike previous games, I felt like I had to take the time to optimize my courts in order to beat a lot of the more challenging fights in Trails Beyond the Horizon. Also, because the evasion stat is now split between art evasion and physical evasion, my favorite evasion tank builds are no longer as easy to set up as they were in past games, but they can still work if you take the time to set them up well. And as annoying as it can get arranging courts, it's extremely satisfying creating an overpowered party containing 3 overpowered main characters to destroy everything in Grimgarten. Oh, and speaking of Grimgarten, I was never a fan of how Falcom put these generic post-game dungeon-like things like March and Garten and the Reverie Corridor into their games, and then forced players to do them in the main story to proceed with the game. It felt like filler to me, but I wasn't too perturbed by Grimgarten for some reason. I think it's because the pacing was better in how it opened up and new things were introduced, and I thought the gothic theme was pretty cool. It didn't hurt that one of my favorite new characters was introduced here too. The side quests in this game are also really well done. I think the Calvard arc in general mastered side quest design due to how the alignment system works, but there are still some choices that will get you more points as a Spriggan than others, so if that bothers you and you know you won't be doing a New Game Plus, I would just use a guide. If you're like me and you're really thorough with side quests, expect to spend a lot of time running around, especially for topic quests that require you to interact with numerous NPCs to complete. Since I found a lot of the side quests interesting, this didn't bother me, but I'd say the ratio to combat and questing is more skewed toward questing in this entry. My thorough playthrough of this game on normal difficulty did take me 96 hours. The music in this game is great as always. Falcom's sound team never fails when it comes to music. The only thing I don't like is that they changed that awesome Edith Underworld district theme from the previous titles to something more forgettable. The district itself is one of the more awesome aspects of Edith in my opinion, and it gets a little bit of Trails world building love in this game too. So yeah, the game sounds great, has great plot and character development, the best battle system in the series, and makes me really excited for the inevitable next game. It's definitely the best Trails game I've ever played, and I've played all of them. One last thing, the game does have an archive that describes some of the relevant history and terms for people and events. However, the game is also the third game in an arc, and playing this game without playing at the very minimum the previous 2 Trails of Daybreak games will probably destroy a lot of the potential fun you would have in this game, if the story means anything to you. At a minimum, I'd say you should play Trails into Reverie and the other 2 Calvard games. Reen's side of the story, or at least part of the reason he's in Calvard, will at least make enough sense with the backstory from Trails into Reverie. Honestly though, Kevin's significance probably won't make much sense to you if you haven't seen what he does in the Trails and the Sky trilogy that define his character within his organization. And there are some side quests that connect to characters and events from the Crossbell duology. Also, some of the things that happen to Crow and Reen won't make much sense unless you've played the entire Trails of Cold Steel series, so I'm just going to say what everyone else says, and that is to play all the past Trails games before playing this one if you really want to get the most from the game. So if you aren't caught up on those games, get to it, and if you've never played a Trails game in your life, go start with the upcoming remake to the very first Trails game, Trails in the Sky, the first, coming out on September 19th, 2025. I'll be talking more about that game in another video closer to its launch. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.